We, the people, declare today that the most evident of truths, that all of us are created equal, is the star that guides us still, just as it guided our forebears through Seneca Falls and Selma and Stonewall.
During his second inauguration, President Barack Obama used his historic speech to commemorate monumental events in America's quest for equality, including the 1969 Stonewall Riots. The Stonewall Riots helped move the LGBT community out of the shadows and launch the gay rights movement. Historically, gay people in America have never been accepted for who they are. In colonial times, being gay was a capital felony with the punishment of death. Gay people were considered a type of monster, you could say. Being gay was considered a mental illness, and those who had the so-called disease of homosexuality were put in a mental institution. In these institutions, they were experimented on in many ways to try and find a so-called cure for homosexuality. Kids were warned not to be around homosexuals and were told all the different punishments for being gay. Gay people had a hard time in the 1960s. They were called queer, homo, and many other names.
We discovered that Americans consider homosexuality more harmful to society than adultery, abortion, or prostitution. Most Americans are repelled by the mere notion of homosexuality. The CBS News survey shows that 2 out of 3 Americans look upon homosexuals with disgust, discomfort, or fear. 1 out of 10 says hatred. A vast majority believe that homosexuality is an illness. Only 10% say it is a crime. And yet, and here's the paradox, the majority of Americans favor legal punishment, even for homosexual acts performed in private between consenting adults.
Lots of gay people moved to Greenwich Village because there were many other gay people and safe places. Some of these safe places were gay bars like the Stonewall Inn. The Stonewall Inn, like many other gay bars, was owned by the mafia. The liquor was watered down, the cigarette machine and jukebox were owned by the mafia, the bar had no liquor license, but gay men and lesbians could be themselves and they didn't have to hide their feelings for one another. On June 28, 1969, the police raided the Stonewall Inn. They had raided other gay bars before and usually had no problem. The gay people were afraid of them, so they followed their instructions. But this time they weren't going to let their rights be taken from them. This time they fought back. Gay people who lived in Greenwich Village saw a crowd out in front of the Stonewall Inn. They went to see what was going on and often found themselves rioting too. At first they were just shouting, but someone picked up a few pennies and started throwing them at the cops. Soon more pennies were being thrown from the crowd. Those pennies turned to rocks, garbage, and bottles thrown at the police. The police were scared and went to take refuge in the bar. They tried to send for help, but their radios didn't work. Outside, a group of people had picked up a parking meter and were hitting it against the door. The police were very frantic, looking for a way to escape. A policewoman crawled through a window and sent for help. Finally, help came with shields and helmets. They stood in front of the bar, but they were too scared and started backing up. This told the crowd that they were scared, so they fought harder. Fires were lit, more garbage was thrown, and all the rioters started singing. Finally, the rioters left. The next day, Greenwich Village was heavily patrolled by police. The gay people weren't afraid. If anyone was afraid, it was the cops. The riots continued over the next few nights. Gay people could meet in public and didn't have to be scared of the police. A group of gays and lesbians got together and decided to have a protest for their rights. Exactly a year later, a group got together for the first Gay Pride Parade on June 28, 1970. The New York Times said that marchers took up the whole street for about 15 blocks. People were holding signs. Now every June is known as Gay Pride Month. Gay Pride parades are hosted all over the United States in the month of June. A symbol of gay pride is a rainbow. LGBT, a common phrase to describe gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and transsexuals, are proud of who they are, and so they wanted a bright, colorful flag to represent them. These flags are used in the parades. 40 years later, gay people in America still don't have full rights. In many states, gays and lesbians are not allowed to marry loved ones of the same gender. Gay marriages are still not recognized by the federal government. But in June of 2013, the Supreme Court struck down the Defense of Marriage Act in the case of U.S. v. Edith Windsor. Passed in 1996, the Defense of Marriage Act, or DOMA, was a federal law that defined marriage as an institution only allowable between opposite-sex partners. The 2013 Supreme Court ruling on DOMA has paved the way for legalization of gay marriage at the state level and the federal level. In February 2014, the U.S. government announced that it would recognize all same-sex marriages in federal legal matters such as bankruptcy and survivor benefits. Despite rapid changes in gay rights laws in the U.S., gay rights is the civil rights issue of our time. Also in February of 2014, the state of Kansas tried to pass anti-gay legislation, stating that people could discriminate against gay citizens in their community. For example, restaurants could refuse to serve gay customers, or businesses could refuse to hire someone just because they were gay. Every week, different states are attempting to pass laws that expand or restrict rights for the LGBT community. At the same time, many LGBT issues have been seen in various courtrooms across the country. Ultimately, the U.S. Supreme Court will likely rule on the issue of gay civil rights. These changes in legal rights and in popular opinion about what it means to be gay in America can all be traced back to the 1969 Stonewall Riots.